How to get inspired on studies. To get inspired on studies, we must understand two things. The first one is why we should study. The second one is how people are get interested on a certain activity. If we know the answer for these two questions, we can completely understand and perfectly carry out a certain activity interestingly, whatever the activity is. So let us go to the first question, why we should study. Without knowing, if we do that activity, we cannot do it perfectly and we cannot do it interestingly. Therefore, we must know why we are doing certain activity. So, studies also, if we don't know why we are studying it, then we cannot do it perfectly. That is why most of the students are not interested on studies. Even if you are interested on a certain day and they lose the interest continuously because the study is not a simple task to do it immediately. So it is a process. It continuously should be done and to achieve a certain thing. Therefore, the students usually lose their interest continuously. Therefore, we must understand first why we should study. The first question. If you ask a student, why do you study? Then the student may tell you to get a pass in the examination, obviously. Okay, after passing the examination, what will you do? Then I will get an entrance in a university or in a university or in an institution. Or after getting entrance in a university or institution, what will you do? I will get a degree. So after getting a degree, what will you do? I will get a better job. After getting a better job, what will you do? Then I will get a good salary. If I have a good job, then I will get good salary. Okay, if you have a good salary, what will you do? Then I can buy whatever I wanted to do in my life. Okay, after buying all these things, what will you do? The person may tell you, I will be happy. So if you are happy, then what will you do? Now no one can answer. If you ask after happiness, what will you do? Then no one can answer for this question, because after happiness, no any other goals. That is the highest happiness of all living things in the world. Therefore, no one can answer this question, because all the activities what we do. Therefore, even for the studies, the highest goal is happiness. Then, why do we lose interest on the way? Because it is a long process and we cannot achieve it immediately. Therefore, people are usually lose their interest on this long process, on the way of this long process. Okay, now we know. If you have seen my earlier video, you can now understand for any activity that we do is for our happiness. Even the studies also. Whatever we do is for happiness. But this happiness on studies will not be achieved immediately. Therefore, people are losing their interest on studies and jumping for some other activities in between on the way. Now we know why do we study. Second question is how people get interested on a certain activity. That is the other question. you might have noticed some people are very interested on certain activity, but at the same time not interested on another activity. People are different, and different people have different interests, and therefore one is interested on certain activity while the other one is not interested on that activity and have interest on another activity. That depends on their desires and their goals. However, you can notice one thing. If many people are interested on a certain activity, then that means through that activity they are immediately getting a pleasure or happiness immediately. Then the people are naturally get involved and will be attracted towards that activity because that gives immediate happiness. That's why the people are playing games, they are playing video games, and then they watch films, and there are several activities they are get involved interestingly because that gives you immediately the pleasure or happiness. So this is the answer for the second question, how people are get interested on certain activities, because it gives immediate happiness. So now we come to the point of how we can get inspired on studies. So if we know the techniques, how people are get interested on a certain activity and why we are studying them, then we can simply solve this problem. Studies is also for the happiness ultimately, but since it is the long process, the people are losing the interest. But we know the answer for how people are getting interested on a certain activity, because that should give immediate happiness. So the studies will not give you immediate happiness because studying is a continuous process that will not give immediate happiness. But if it gives immediate happiness somewhere on the way, then the people can have chances to get involved interestingly on studies. Then at the end of the process they can get ultimate happiness. So how we can get intermediate happiness on the studies, the process of the studies. Just have the example here. When we are brushing our teeth in the morning, it's not for immediate happiness, isn't it? It's not for immediate happiness. But anyhow, we are doing regularly, but not interestingly. How we can get interested on brushing our teeth? Two things we can do. First one, we can buy new brush, and very good, smooth and flexible brush, and the next day morning then we'll be very interestingly do that activity. Or the other one is if you buy good toothpaste with a good smell, and it will give some freshness and then some kind of taste in it, or then we can interestingly go and take it and interestingly brush it and enjoy our brushing. So likewise, we can do studies also. The studies also can be done like this. How you can do this kind of activities, this kind of changes in studies? First, what you have to do is, first you can complete a chapter or section which you could not be understood earlier, and after completely understood that certain section or chapter, then a kind of happiness will come. So you will be happy after completing a certain section. So if you understood that certain section, then you will feel a happiness. So this happiness will take you again to the next process. Next process means again you can, with this happiness, this is the inspiration that you got through this activity, and then you can take this fire again to the next, to clear the next section. If you clear the next section again, then you will get again another happiness. So these are the small happiness that you can bring in on the way of the process. So enjoy the happiness by clearing another section. Again that happiness will continue further. Then you can get interested on studies. At the same time, the ultimate happiness of the studies could be achieved at last if you enjoy the small happiness on the way, and then you can get inspired on studies. Therefore, clear the first section and completely understand it, and practice with answering the questions on that certain section, and then you will get the happiness. And with that happiness you can clear the next section, and with the happiness you can continue clearing sections and continue practice on that, and you will definitely get inspired on certain activity, definitely get inspired on studies. Thank you.